Discover spine-chilling haunted tales. Unexplainable horrors exposed by terrifying voices. It was a quiet night in the quaint little town where Emilia lived, but beneath the sleepy facade lay deep shadows that whispered of darkness. Outside, fog curled around the street lamps, dimming their glow, as if nature itself was warning her about the nightmares waiting just beyond the wall. The once comically cute sounds of children playing had turned into chilling echoes, and it was unsettling enough to put Emilia on edge. As a single mother, her late-night shifts at the diner were sometimes the only way to keep food on the table for her two boys, Ethan and Max. But each night felt heavier, like a weight of dread trailing her home. Mr. Thompson, their elderly neighbor, often watched over her boys, but lately, his stories weighed down more than comforted. The bizarre folklore he shared felt more like warnings now than quaint tales. There was talk of spirits lurking in the shadows, of homes once filled with laughter that had been silenced by a haunting, unseen presence. "Stay close to home, dear," he'd chuckle, but his eyes betrayed a grave seriousness. You never know who or what is watching. Each tale sent shivers racing up her spine, but she brushed them off until last week when strange noises began seeping through the thin walls. It started as faint whispers, like wind gently rustling through branches, but then it morphed. Shadows flickered across windows, making her boys' eyes go wide, hiding beneath their beds, too shaken to scream. "It's just the wind," she lied, trying to convince herself more than them. But as days went by, the unsettling energy escalated and whispers turned to frantic voices, and the shadows morphed into figures. The tension in their small home became unbearable. Then there was that night Emilia rushed home, her heart pounding, every corner of the street cloaked in silence that felt suffocating. Crickets were absent, as if they too feared what loomed in the darkness. "Not now, not tonight," she muttered under her breath, dread pooling in her stomach. When she flung open the door, she was greeted by the emptiness of her home. Panic surged. "Ethan? Max?" she called, her voice cracking as the silence swallowed her whole. They were gone. As she rushed to the police station, her panic met with dull indifference. Kids run off to play sometimes. This ain't no crime hotspot." An officer shrugged, rolling his eyes. Every word made her blood boil. How could they be so dismissive as she stood trembling in front of them? Desperate, she flung herself into an investigation she never anticipated, searching through papers, old articles. The town's hushed past clawed its way to the surface, revealing stories of children who had vanished long before her time. Each revelation twisted her stomach and deepened the shadows in her heart. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The links to Mr. Thompson and the past horrors weighed heavy on her mind. As the fog crept in thicker each night, killing all light and warmth, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "Where are you, boys?" she whispered into the haunting quiet. And then, echoing deep within the mist, she thought she heard them, their voices, lifting softly in the fog. "Mom!" they called. Terror seized her heart. Drawn by an unexplainable pull, she stepped toward the darkness, uncertainty clawing at her. But the chill lurking within the fog whispered that this was only the beginning of her nightmare, where shadows consumed what they sought to keep hidden. Emilia moved forward, her breath hitching in her throat as she crossed deeper into the suffocating fog. Every step felt wrong, like she was moving against an invisible current that wanted her to turn back. The voices became clearer, sharper, slicing through the chilling air. "Mom, help!" The urgency wrapped around her, drawing her toward the sound. But with each forward motion, dread narrowed her focus. She clenched her fists, heart pounding, as she strained to see through the thick mist. Shadows danced just beyond her line of sight, flickering like dying embers. "Ethan, Max, she shouted, but her voice felt weak, swallowed by the oppressive silence. Suddenly, a chilling gust of wind rushed past her, carrying the faintest scent of something decaying. The hairs on the back of her neck stood tall, ice crawling down her spine. Was this a trick? A figment of her overactive mind? Or a flash of movement caught her eye, a silhouette darting between the trees? Her instinct screamed to run, but she couldn't abandon her boys. Come out, she called, her voice gaining strength, masking her fear. I'm not angry, just come back home. From the shadows, a figure emerged, illuminated by a distant beam of moonlight filtering through the fog. Every instinct told her to recoil, to flee from the looming presence of Mr. Thompson. But it was too late. He was right in front of her, a ghost of the man she had come to trust. Emilia, his voice was low, rasping, as if he had something caught in his throat. You shouldn't be here. His eyes, usually warm, now glimmered with an unsettling knowledge that made her stomach twist. What do you mean? She demanded, a heaviness settling in her bones. Where are my boys? Did you see them? Panic surged through her words, demanding answers that put distance between her and the encroaching shadows. They are where they belong, he murmured, eyes darting into the darkness. You must leave before. He trailed off, shaking his head as if trying to block a vision. Before what? Her voice trembled, feet rooted on the damp grass. The fog thickened, enveloping them like a shroud, and the air turned electric with anxiety. Before it claims you, Thompson whispered, and it felt as though the shadows themselves were whispering the same words, curling dark tendrils around her mind. In that moment, Emilia noticed the fleeting figures behind him, small, indistinct shapes, whispering, moving as if dancing in a cruel game of hide and seek. Ethan, Max, she shouted again, desperation clawing at her throat. But just then, a sharp crack sounded, a branch snapping nearby, echoing through the stillness. Instinctively, she turned toward it, and the dim forms moved closer. Panic surged anew, and she took a step back, confused. Run, Emilia. You don't understand, Thompson urged. But it was too late. The boys' voices were now lost, overtaken by the cacophony of whispers, rising to a frantic crescendo. Join us. Stay with us. Forever. They were just ahead, always tantalizingly out of reach. And as fear consumed her, she felt a tug in her chest, a dreadful longing to give in to the shadows. It was then Emilia realized, this wasn't only about saving her boys. The darkness was calling to her too. As the voices harmonized into a symphony of despair, Emilia stood frozen. Was her heart stronger than the haunting allure of the night? Or would she, too, become another lost spirit, lost to the fog forever? The line between fear and surrender blurred as the figures edged closer, choking the air with dread. She was terrified, but she must choose. Fight or flee. Would she unravel the threads of this nightmare? Or would she step into the abyss? The fog thickened, concealing the path back, but revealing new horrors lurking within what awaited her just beyond the veil. Emilia's heart raced, a wild drumbeat matching the rising chaos around her. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if the very fog was alive, swirling with anticipation. She could feel the ominous presence of the shadowy figures creeping ever closer, a suffocating heaviness settling in her chest. Ethan, Max, she screamed, desperation spilling from her lips. It felt like shouting into a void. Her voice was snatched away by the darkness, leaving behind only a chilling silence. Fear twisted her insides, and for a moment, she was paralyzed, grappling with the choice before her. Thompson's warning echoed in her mind, a ghostly reminder that the shadows were not merely empty threats. They were hungry for what she didn't want to find out. Suddenly, without warning, the darkness shifted. A figure sprang forward, small and quick. Emilia's breath caught as she froze, heart racing. Could it be? Max, is that you? She called, hope igniting like a flickering candle in the wind. The figure paused, glancing back, and in that fleeting moment, Emilia glimpsed unmistakable dark hair and wide eyes, filled with a haunted innocence. But before she could reach out, the shape vanished back into the fog, replaced by an eerie silence. "Mom!" A voice called again, closer this time, but it wasn't T-Max. It was a sweet yet sorrowful echo, shaping itself into a garbled whisper. "Help us!" The mist thickened further, and the chilling weight of 1,000 unseen eyes settled upon her. "No, I'm coming. I won't leave you," she screamed, conviction pouring through her veins as adrenaline surged. Driven by love, she stumbled deeper into the maw of the fog, struggling against the unseen current. Then came out of the swirling depths new figures. Emaciated children danced in a grotesque mimicry of play. Their laughter sounded strained, distorted, almost broken. They twirled around her like wraiths, their eyes hollow, their presence eerily joyous. "Join us, Emilia," they sang. "We are always together." "No," she snapped, shaking her head violently. "Get away from me." But the tendrils of darkness coiled tighter, pulling her in as her anger flared. For a second she thought she saw Ethan, his little frame bathed in a ghostly blue light, reaching for her. And just like that, the vision shattered. "Don't give in." Thompson's voice echoed again, cutting through the shadows, a desperate plea that clawed at Emilia's haze. "You can't trust them. They'll take you. Get away," she shouted as the figures closed in, each child's laughter morphing into howls of delight. Shadows swirled around her, squeezing the air from her lungs, drowning her thoughts in an endless loop. "Join us. Stay with us. Forever." The longing surged stronger, threatening to bury her will beneath an intoxicating wave of despair. Memories of laughter at the park, cuddles before bed, and the simple joy of family surged through her. She fought against the darkness wrapping around her like a cold, clammy blanket, tugging her further down. Just then, in the cold grip of fear, Emilia summoned a spirit of defiance. "No, I choose my boys," she roared, breaking the spell that threatened to claim her. With every ounce of strength, she pushed back against the encroaching shadows, willing herself to fight. And in that moment of defiance, the fog began to part. A glimmer of light flickered in the distance, growing ever so slightly a beacon amid the despair. But as she stumbled toward it, she sensed something shift behind her. The whispers grew furious, an angry chorus clawing at her sanity. "You cannot escape, you belong to us forever." Emilia's breath quickened as shadows stretched and lunged at her ankles, dragging her toward the darkness that seemed to cackle in delight. The light ahead flickered uncertainly. Would it open a way, or was it another cruel deception? Each quickening heartbeat drilled into her ears. Would she reach the light before the shadows swallowed her whole? The fog closed in, the spectral children's laughter now an eerie symphony behind her. She took a breath and pushed forward. As she lunged toward the light, a scream echoed from deep within, a call that could either save her or doom her once and for all. Would the truth stand on the other side, waiting to shatter her last hopes? The light shimmered like a fragile promise, flickering in the depths of despair. Emilia surged forward, driven by a primal need to escape the suffocating darkness. Just as she reached the glimmer, a wave of cold washed over her, dragging her back. Panic surged, clawing at her throat. The shadows screamed, their voices overlapping into a cacophony of shrieks that pierced the silence. "You can't leave us. We want you, Emilia." Shadows twisted around her legs, trying to pull her down. Each attempt stretched the thin veneer of hope she clung to, but still she fought. "Max! Ethan!" she cried, their names echoing off the fog like a distant clawing sound, both a lifeline and a curse. The shadowed forms of children danced around her, their eyes dark voids. Forever. They beckoned, fingers splayed like branches of a gnarled tree. Emilia's breath came in short gasps as she pushed against the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. "Just give me back my boys," she screamed, defiance lighting a fire deep in her chest. Suddenly, the world shifted. The mist twisted grotesquely, revealing what she wished she hadn't seen. Faces materialized within the shadow's hollow eyes, sunken cheeks, her mind unspooled, racing back to every news segment about missing children. every face she saw plastered on flyers. Ghostly whispers wrapped around her, feeding on her fear. "Join us," they crooned, and with each note, her resolve quaked. She could feel herself slipping, losing the grip on her reality as memories flared her boys in their bright shirts, rippling laughter echoing through the house. "No, not now." She shook her head violently, but even the tiniest of hesitations was enough. The darkness roared back, surging like a storm. Desperation clawed at her heart. Shadows wrapped like ink-drenched vines, rooting her in place. Breath hot and ragged, Emilia's heart raced as darkness swirled, brushing against her skin like ice. "Fight it. They lie." Thompson's voice echoed again, breaking through the howls and whispers. But now, engulfed in shadows, her heart felt like lead. "Mom!" The voice of a child broke through, clearer than the rest, sending shockwaves of hope and dread racing up her spine. "Couldn't he be Ethan? Hold on," she shouted, grasping at the warmth of the voice in her memory. She thought of his bright smile, the way he clung to her leg, always asking to play. A fierce resolve burned through her panic. She couldn't let the shadows take that away. The whispers transformed. No longer pleas of the lost children but twisted accusations. "You are nothing without us. You'll abandon them. They will forget you." Their laughter echoed, sharp and angry. Embattled, Emilia turned toward the flickering light, hands outstretched. The warmth sought to engulf her, to swallow her whole, but she charged ahead. "No, I will not abandon my family." With each step, the darkness recoiled, howling in distress. The light surged, bathing her in warmth as if it were alive, calling her home. The specters around her shrieked, their hollow laughter morphing into frantic cries. She could see it now, the path illuminated, clarity breaking through the haze like dawn shattering night. And then, just when she felt the warmth grasp her fingertips, the figures lunged. Long, gnarled fingers reached out, snagging her sleeve. She stumbled, the world around her spinning faster, drowning in shadows as the beacon dimmed. A chilling realization crashed over her. The shadows were not just trying to keep her. They were desperate to hold on to her. Would she be able to save her boys? Or would she drown in the darkness forever, lost and alone? Emilia stumbled forward, her heart racing, each breath like a jagged knife in her throat. Panic clawed at her chest, a living thing. The shrieks of the shadows morphed into a deafening symphony, drowning out everything she held dear. They were so close now, those gnarled fingers, writhing like worms, wanting to drag her under. "No!" she screamed, forcing herself to break free of the grip that tightened around her. With one last effort, she pushed against the weight of despair, the darkness swirling like a storm, threatening to engulf her. "I will find them." Just when she thought the light was lost, it flickered back into her vision. A fierce brightness surged from somewhere beyond the haze, igniting her resolve. But the shadows shrieked louder, their insistent chants wrapping around her throat like a noose. "You're ours. You can't leave." She could almost see Ethan now, his face hovering just at the edge of the light, but everything around him twisted into mockery. "Help me, Mom," he called, the anguish in his voice tearing through Emilia like shrapnel. "Ethan," she wailed, stepping closer to the light. And then a sudden chill swept through her, freezing her in place. A deeper shadow slithered across her path, larger than the others, blacker than coal, with an abyss where its face should be. It expanded, pulsating with a malevolent hunger that whispered sweet nothings. "Join us," it hissed, swallowing the remnants of the warmth. A grotesque drawing of affection. Emilia shook her head, her vision blurring with fear. The darkness pressed against her skin like hot metal, burning and pulling. "No, I won't leave them behind." The resolve in her voice shattered the chilling silence around her. But far from vanquishing the shadows, it only infuriated them. "Stay with us," they shrieked in unison, their half-formed faces contorting with rage and despair. "You must pay for your sins." The accusation hit her raw and savage. Her past loomed like a specter, haunted by choices made too long ago, lingering like a ghost refusing to be laid to rest. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, tears of desperation stinging her eyes. "I'm already suffering. Let them go." From within the onslaught, a soft voice beckoned, lighter than a whisper but with an undercurrent of hope. "Mom, we're still here." Max sounded so close yet so far, his urgency a soft beacon in the heart of despair. She swung around, searching for him, grappling with the memories of lazy afternoons spent building Lego forts and baking cookies. They were gone. She couldn't let their laughter fade. Seizing the warmth of their memories, she wielded it like a weapon against the encroaching shadows. "Do you hear that?" Emilia cried, steeling herself against her diminishing hope. "I am a mother. I will not stand down." She lunged toward the light, fighting through the gnashing teeth of despair and clinging shadows. Yet, just as it was within her reach, the foreboding shape surged forward, a wall of darkness blocking the way. No escape. It howled, an echo so piercing it resonated in her bones. Her pulse quickened, the air around her thickening, pulling. "Together, we will be together," she cried out, digging deep for the strength of her love, racing toward the light. Then, the chilling realization struck her again. The darkness hadn't just come to reclaim her. It was searching for the boys too. The very thought paralyzed her. What if the shadows were right? What if she couldn't save them? What if they were lost forever? And then, in an instant, the ground beneath her cracked open, an abyss yawning wide. Emilia teetered at the edge, the light now slipping away, each flicker dimming under pressing darkness. "Emilia!" Thompson's voice cut through the chaos, firm and commanding. What was left of her resolve splintered. Her heart raced wildly against the ever-thickening shadows. In that moment of chaos, she had to decide. Would she leap into the light, even if it meant leaving everything behind once more? Her breath caught. Was this truly the end? Or was it just the beginning? Emilia's feet slid dangerously at the edge of the chasm, the darkness swirling around her like a tempest eager to swallow her whole. The shadows writhed, a massive menace, eager to claim their prize. Thompson's voice echoed again, a lifeline in this chaotic maelstrom. "Emilia, trust in the light. You can do this." "Can I?" she shrieked, the cold seeping deeper into her bones. She felt the impinging shadows whispering their torment. "He can't save you. No one can." Desperation ignited her spirit. She clung to the faint echoes of her boy's laughter, refusing to let it slip through her grasp. "Stay with me," she cried out. But as she stepped closer to the abyss, the weight of silence wrapped around her like a shroud, heavy and suffocating. "I can't hold on much longer," she yelled, closing her eyes and picturing Ethan and Max. Their smiles pushed against the crushing gloom, a flicker of warmth against the cold desperation. And then came the tremors. The ground shuddered beneath her, a relentless quake that sent reverberations through her body. "Don't let go. Don't let them take you." Thompson's words cascaded through the shadows, buoying her spirit. In a surge of bravery, Emilia leapt toward the light that stole at the edges of her vision. But the darkness lunged back, reaching out with despairing hands, pulling at her body like icy fingers clinging to her will. "Come home, Emilia. Embrace the darkness," they chanted. "No," she screamed, the ferocity of her heart raging against the unforgiving tide. With every fiber of her being, she soared, hands stretching towards the soft glow. The edges of her vision shimmered as the light granted her an ephemeral embrace just before pain slashed through her. Something latched onto her leg, yanking her back down into the veil of shadows. The faces that had once twisted in mockery now gleamed with victorious glee. Panic roared within her. She kicked against the darkness, but it was too strong. "Help me," she cried, her voice breaking. Her heartbeat pulsed wildly, a drum of fear echoing through the void. "Mom, don't give up." Max's voice pierced the darkness like a spear. The urgency in it ignited a fresh wave of strength within her. She fought back against the pull of shadows, clawing at the ground, desperate to escape their encroachment. "This place isn't real," she shouted, The shadows stilled for an agonizing heartbeat. You have no power over me. It's all in your mind, they hissed, and you will always choose to stay. But in that thin moment of hesitation, something inside Emilia snapped. I am made of love, she declared, anger fueling her words. Love cannot be taken. She surged again toward the light, forcing her legs to move, the tumult of shadows swirling violently around her, shrieking in rage. As she tore through that vast expanse of darkness, Emilia caught a glimpse of the other side. Light cascaded like a waterfall, inviting, warm, glowing with hope. With one final, fierce push, she leapt, freeing herself from the clutches of despair. But then, just as she breached the threshold, the ground collapsed entirely beneath her. She screamed, plunging into an abyss that echoed with laughter not just of the shadows but also of familiar voices. And as she fell, panic froze her blood. Would she land in darkness, or would she find what she sought? The moment stretched, an endless eternity of doubt. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for impact while the shadows taunted from above. Emilia, the soft, haunting whisper was both familiar and terrifying, dangling in the void as she plummeted. And there, the weight of all she had lost began to shift the air around her, suffocating yet palpable. The deeper shadow loomed below, its insatiable hunger ready to feast. As the light flickered far above, she whispered, "Am I too late?" The ground rushed up to meet her, but the chilling promise of a new revelation awaited just as she fell. What had truly been taken from her would now begin to unveil in the endless dark. Emilia plummeted into an abyss of despair. With her heart hammering, she could feel the coldness wrapping around her like chains, dragging her further into the unknown. The laughter, a cacophony of mocking voices, echoed all around her, swirling in tandem with the darkness. Each breath felt like icy shards piercing her lungs as she descended into the void. Her mind raced. Was this the end? Would she join the whispers of those who had been consumed? But just as the thought settled in her heart, a flicker of hope glimmered somewhere within the shadows, a distant memory of laughter, faces she loved. "Hold on, Emilia," she shouted, words like a beacon against the billowing dark. But the laughter grew louder, morphing into a taunting chant. "You're ours now. You'll never escape." Gritting her teeth, Emilia let the pulse of her love for her boys surge within her. "You don't own me," she screamed, defiance igniting her spirit anew. The darkness rippled as if momentarily shaken. And then impact. The ground beneath her was coarse and damp, like the bottom of a grave. She lay there for a moment, dazed. The shadows pressed against her, cold fingers brushing her skin, sending shivers through her spine. Emilia blinked, trying to adjust her sight to the unnerving gloom. Shapes coiled and slithered around her. They looked like people, and yet they were not. Their faces were melting into each other, lost in despair, with eyes wide and empty. She could hear soft sobs, echoing her own fears. "Help us," they cried, reaching out with clawing hands that vanished before touching her skin. Her heart twisted as she recognized one of those faces. "Is that you?" she gasped. It was a flicker of Ethan, his eyes wide with fright. "Mom!" "Ethan!" "No." She reached for him, but he dissolved into a mist, a ghostly remnant of what had once been. Panic surged within her. She couldn't let this happen. "I'll find you," she vowed, the intensity of her longing breaking through the suffocating darkness. The shadows felt their movement as she stood, emboldened. "I will conquer you," she bellowed, each word like a hammer against their murky forms. They recoiled, hissing in fury. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a glimmer of light flickered around her, battling against the shadows. It pulsed, beckoning her closer, pushing back against the encroaching dark. She grasped it like an anchor, feeling warmth flood her veins. But the darkness shrieked in retaliation. "You cannot escape what you are," it howled, twisting the very fabric of reality around her. Emilia fought back, a primal scream erupting from her throat. "I choose who I am." More tendrils erupted around her, desperate to drag her back, but she would not yield. The ache in her heart guided her toward the light that clung to her palm. She surged forward into the sheer brightness, feeling its promise touch her soul. As she raced ahead, pulling the light closer, something clawed at her from behind, fear gaining form. A monstrous visage of regret and despair she once carried. It whispered heart-wrenching secrets that chilled the air. "You'll lose them. You will be alone." "No," she shouted, forcing her way through. "I am not defined by your lies." With a final lunge, she broke free into the light, an overwhelming sense of relief crashing around her like warm waves. She gasped, the sound of her breath filling the silence that followed. But what she saw next froze her blood. Before her were dozens of doors, each one painted various shades of her past: the faded blue of her childhood bedroom, the vibrant red of the car she drove while pregnant, the dull gray of the hospital where she'd last seen her boys. Each door beckoned with a promise or a threat, as if they held her greatest triumphs or failures. The laughter morphed into whispers of temptation. "Open them, Emilia. Discover what lies on the other side." Which door would she choose? Each one a sliver of her lost identity. But what awaited her behind them? An unsettling chill threaded through her. Her heart raced. What lies beyond? She murmured, the shadows lingering at the edge of her vision, waiting for her choice. Would she step forward into the unknown? And just as she took a step toward the closest door, it swung open, revealing a deep, unfathomable darkness. Something profound lurked beyond, filling the air with a sense of dread. "What have you done?" a voice sneered from the shadows. Emilia hesitated on the threshold, a cold sweat sliding down her back. But she knew she could either step into the dark or turn back. The question lingered. What revelation awaited beyond that door, and at what cost? Emilia stood frozen, adrenaline pumping through her veins like wildfire. The darkness behind the door breathed, pulsing and alive, as if it were a creature waiting for her to take the next step. The voice echoed again, mocking, "What have you done? You're already too late. You should never come here." Every instinct screamed at her to retreat, to flee back to the safety of memory or the distant warmth of her boys. Yet, the thought of Ethan, the fleeting image of his terrified face, propelled her forward. She couldn't turn back, not again. With trembling hands, she stepped through the threshold. The darkness swallowed her whole, thicker than midnight, wrapping around her like a shroud. She gasped as the world changed, the familiar grip of fear now morphing into something sharper, more tangible, a reality she never wanted to confront. Suddenly, the air shifted. She stood in a dimly lit room, walls constricting around her, draped in shadows that writhed like living tendrils. An old rocking chair creaked in the corner, a soft, ghostly sound that set her teeth on edge. She felt the overwhelming urge to flee, but deep down, she sensed this was where she needed to be. "Welcome home," the hissing voice returned, slithering around her like smoke. Twisted her name, stretching the syllables. "Emilia." A flicker of light erupted, illuminating something on the floor. She crouched, heart racing. It was a picture, a family portrait, their faces vibrant and alive. For a second, she could almost touch Ethan's cheek, hear his laughter, feel the warmth of their togetherness. But then her vision blurred, the laughter dissipating into the abyss once more. A guttural sound broke the air, the sound of something heavy moving in the dark. "Do you remember, Emilia? The promises you made?" The voice taunted, echoing against the walls. "They're waiting for you to reclaim them." The shadows elongated, twisting into dark figures that loomed closer. Each shape whispered her name, their voices mingling together, sending waves of terror spiraling through her. The weight of her past hung heavy like fog, clouding her thoughts and suffocating her resolve. "No," she shouted, thrusting her hands out as if she could push the phantoms away. But the darkness didn't retreat. It surged forward, and she stumbled backward, crashing against the wall. "Let go of her." A new voice broke through, sharp and commanding. Emilia glanced up, squinting through the dark. A silhouette emerged from the shadows, tall and imposing. The figure shifted, revealing familiar features. "Mom, it's me, Ethan." Emilia's breath caught in her throat. He stepped closer, eyes filled with desperation. But as he reached for her, he flickered like a flame. "You have to hurry. They can't hold me here much longer." Who? Who can't?" she cried, panic clawing at her chest as the shadows recoiled from Ethan, hissing in rage. "The shadows!" he shouted, and suddenly the room trembled with a deafening roar. "They want to consume you, just like they did with me." Reality warped around her. The walls cracked, shadows reaching out with clawing fingers, trying to drag her back into their depths. "No, I'm not yours," she screamed, her voice drowning in the clamorous chaos. But instead of faltering, she felt a flicker of the warmth she had fought to hold on to. A tiny spark ignited within her a promise she had made. "I will find you." She lunged forward, grabbing for Ethan's fading image. "I won't let them take you us." As she grasped his hand and pulled, the room erupted into blinding light, the shadows shrieking as they recoiled. Yet even as she felt the warmth start to envelop them both, a chilling reality gripped her heart. There was another door behind her, one she hadn't noticed until now, silently beckoning, its edges pulsing with an unnatural glow. "Ethan, what if we?" she hesitated, uncertainty creeping back in like a cold draft. But the choice lay heavy over her. "Don't look back. Trust me," he urged. "We have to go now before it's too late." But the question loomed in her mind. What could be behind that new door? With a final glance at the shadows, Emilia felt her heart racing. Would she trust her son and flee with him into the unknown? Or would she risk everything by discovering the truth waiting beyond that ominous threshold? In that breathless moment, she knew her choice could mean salvation or doom. The time to decide was now. Which door would she dare to open next? Emilia's heart thundered in her chest, caught in a clash of instinct and fear. She felt the pulse of the unknown drawing her close, the light around her and Ethan flickering like a dying star. But the shadows, those darkened figures, loomed larger, sensing her hesitation. It was as if they fed on her doubt, thickening the air with their sinister whispers. "Mom, please, we have to go." Ethan's voice faltered, the urgency in his tone cracking the facade of her courage. She glanced behind at the other door, an invitation and a threat in one. What awaited her there? The thought crossed her mind. What if stepping through meant losing Ethan forever? The shadows hissed, their whispers morphing into a cacophony of desperate cries, echoing her inner turmoil. "Nothing good, Emilia. Just darkness." The voice coiled around her, slick and slimy. "You're their only hope. You know it." "No," she shouted, shaking her head violently as panic swelled within her. Yet, beneath that layer of terror, there was a pressing, almost magnetic force urging her toward the light. "Trust yourself," Ethan pleaded, the fading light of his figure flickering like a candle in a gale. "Remember what we talked about. We can break this cycle, I know we can," she had promised, not just to herself, but to the girl she used to be, the mother who loved fiercely, who would chase the shadows away for her children. "I won't lose you" echoed in her mind, a mantra, her only weapon against the flood of dark. Suddenly, an icy breath fanned across her neck, and Emilia felt something powerful ripple through the air. She pushed forward, hand reaching for Ethan with determination clawing its way through her veins. The moment was a breath held too long, a storm waiting to break. The shadows shrieked in tandem as her fingers brushed against the warmth of Ethan's. A burst of light enveloped them, scattering the dark figures. "Keep pulling," Ethan yelled, his voice trembling, nearly lost amid the raging chaos. With a final, desperate surge, Emilia grasped tight, pulling him toward her. The crackling pain of the world around them intensified. The shadows thrashed, hurling their darkness toward her like claws desperate to restore the bonds they maintained. In that fractured second, Emilia's mind raced. She thought of the laughter, the simple days, and whispered promises shared over bedtime stories. It was a flicker of hope that filled her with strength. "I will not let you win," she shouted as if to break their hold. And then she made her decision. "We're going through the other door." "Mom, no." Ethan's eyes widened, echoing the fear that began to manifest within her. But it was too late. The choice was made. They lunged toward the pulsing door, the light exuding warmth and fearlessness. Shadows screamed, a wall of resentment trying to drag them back. But with every ounce of resolve, Emilia slammed into the door. It thudded against her like a heartbeat, and then she was tumbling through, the world twisting, spinning out of control. If this was salvation, she could feel nothing but the pull of the void. Then silence, absolute silence, enveloped her, drawing out the warmth. She lay on the cold ground, breathless, struggling to comprehend what had just transpired. But as she looked around, the dread settled back and a new scene greeted her. A mirror of the horrors she had just escaped. She was still in darkness. "Ethan?" she called, her voice trembling as dread curled around her heart. "Where are you?" No answer came, only the rustling of leaves, an unearthly rustle that sent a shiver coursing down her spine. Each breath echoed like a whispered promise of pain. And in that eerie silence, the familiar hissing voice returned. "Welcome back." Emilia, the shadows were not finished yet. They had followed her. What had she walked into? Her reality was turning again. Which way led to salvation? And what awaited her in this second act of horror? As Emilia stared into the abyss of her new surroundings, fear gripped her tightly. The air around her was thick with foreboding, the shadows lingering like old friends, whispering threats that clawed at her sanity. The world danced on the edge of nightmares she had narrowly escaped, and the satisfaction of what had slipped through her grasp gnawed at her. "Ethan," she shouted again, fighting against the silence that wrapped around her completely. "Please." But as fear crept in, a flicker of warmth brushed against her skin, a memory, perhaps, or a promise not yet broken. She recalled how she fought against shadows before, the fierce love that had propelled her forward, and her heart ignited with renewed determination. She wouldn't give in without a fight. A glimmer flickered in the darkness, a hint of light refracting through a thin veil. "Mom?" The voice was faint but unmistakably Ethan's, sending a jolt of hope surging through her. It was just ahead, beckoning, urging her on. "Stay close. I'm coming," she urged, muscles tense as she edged forward into the shadowed veil. Each step felt like wading through tar, the weight of despair trying to pull her back. Just as she thought she was breaking through, something lurked near. A massive figure emerged from the shadow. It towered above her, its eyes hollow, and its mouth twisted into an expression of triumph. "You thought you could leave us behind? You belong to the dark," it roared, darkness spilling forth, threatening to drown her once more. "No, I won't let you take me," Emilia yelled defiantly, pulling from deep within for every ounce of strength she had left. The light flickered in the distance, urging her to fight, so she pushed forward, scrambling away from the monstrous voice that threatened to engulf her. As she ran, the space around her shifted. The shadows recoiled, hissing in frustration. "You can't escape the truth. The darkness is your home. They will always be taken," they echoed as they lunged behind her. Her heart thundered, dredging up the sorrow of loss. Images surged through her mind. Nights spent happily tucking her boys into bed, Ethan's laughter ringing in the house, those sweet moments intertwined with the terrifying thought of losing them. With each breath, she fostered that love, a weapon against despair. The flickering light pulsed, drawing her in. "You're not lost," Emilia declared, a sacred mantra building around her. "Love cannot be taken." Stepping into the brightness with fearless resolve, she flung herself toward the glowing warmth. But then everything exploded around her, the very fabric of reality shaking as the dark figure exploded with rage. "You think you can defy us? You know what you are. You will face the shadow within you," Emilia gasped, a visceral memory gripping her heart, a past regret, and guilt washed over her like a wave that threatened to pull her under. She saw her late husband's face, their dreams slipping away like grains of sand in an hourglass. A familiar weight settled on her shoulders, shadows taunting her with whispers of doubt. "This is your sin, no," she shouted back against the onslaught. But the shadows surged, and the warmth flickered like a dying ember, drawing away. The figures dived toward her, encroaching from every side. "Choose," they hissed, clawing at her resolve. "Choose the light," a distant voice yelled, and she recognized it as Thompson's. He had seen the darkness, faced it and survived. Perhaps so could she. "Ethan and Max are waiting for me." She felt the call of her boys, the urge to embrace them again pulsing near. "I choose to save them," summoning every ounce of love pulsing through her veins. Emilia inhaled deeply, her heart steadying as she locked eyes with the swirling abyss. Love is a relentless force, fiercely protective and unyielding. "I embrace my strength," she shouted, charging toward the light. In that defining moment, the shadows recoiled, howling in fury as the light enveloped her whole, growing brighter against their tormented shrieks. She could feel the warmth reaching out, wrapping her tightly within its cocoon, pulling her upward like tendrils of sunlit hope. As the light swallowed her existence, shapes danced and flickered, revealing faces she longed for. Her boys' laughter echoed in a chorus of joy, unlike any she had ever known. Then she broke free. She gasped, bathed in golden light. The darkness fell away like a curtain of despair, revealing her home sunshine spilling across the living room, and the familiar warmth of laughter blooming in her heart. "Mom!" Ethan and Max rushed to her, their arms extending, love evident in their faces. Emilia swept them up, her spirit soaring. The shadows whispered around her, fading to a mere memory as she held her boys close. "I'm here. I'm here," she breathed, surrendering to the moment, flooded with relief. The love she fought for pulsed through her. No darkness could ever take that away. Reality settled back into place, joyful and bright. The darkness receded, overshadowed by the bonds eternal between mother and son. And as Emilia embraced the light, she understood. It was only darkness until love burst through, revealing all the beauty of their cherished moments still alive. "Thank you for always believing," she whispered, craning down to her boys, smiling as the shadows dissolved behind her. This is where she chose to stay. Her heart finally at peace, she whispered softly, "Goodbye, darkness. You have no power here." Yet, as the moments unfolded, Emilia knew this would not be the last she'd hear of the shadows. With an unyielding heart, she would always be ready, love her greatest weapon. And the boys, her brave souls, would never be alone again. If you enjoyed this thrilling journey, you need to subscribe immediately. Don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that will leave you breathless. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this wild ride going. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what happens next. Let us hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who you know would love to experience this conclusion. Your support matters, and only true fans understand the importance of keeping our community strong. What are you waiting for? Let's keep this adventure alive.